Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Today we're going to prune my original gangster, Dwarf Jade. I call this my OG Jade because it's one of the first, maybe the first I actually got. Let's take it for a spin. You can see it really needs a prune. The shoots have just gone straight up and out. I brought it in after the fall, and you can see the trunk's getting nice and thick compared to my thumb, and it's really just taken off. Like I find when the trees have that little break as the weather was cooling, and you bring them in here and put them under lights where it's warm, and they just take off. And you can see this one really needs to be cut back. So I'll probably have some cuttings for this one, and I could send out. This is was sold to me as a cork bark, and I'm starting to see some evidence of that. It's the only cork bark I have that isn't already corky. But yeah, it's needs to be pruned back, and the goal is to kind of restore the shape. Probably want something like this. I kind of want it to be sort of flatter and wider. Um, and that's kind of my goal for this tree, and I've slowly been doing that. It kind of wants to be a ball shape, so I'm trying to get the stuff on the edges to grow out and really cut the top down. But it's also the holidays, so this is one of the trees I like to put out for a few days as we have guests and they can have a look at it. Let's take a look at it from the top. You can see this thing is just super thick. It really likes to grow under these lights, and so I want to thin this out and open it up a bit. Not too much. I'm not going to prune it how I often do when a tree gets to this point because I want to sort of display it through the holidays, and then I'll probably prune it again after that. But yeah, it doesn't. I kind of want to restore the shape from the top. It doesn't look too bad actually, but it's always something you want to take a look at because you want your profile. It's three-dimensional, right? So you want to kind of look at it all around. Take a look at the trunk. I've got my philosophers there, keeping an eye on the front of the tree, which is something I've been having a lot of fun with now. And you can see the base. I'm not too worried about it. I think it just keep thickening up. I would imagine this tree's gonna have a pretty fat trunk by the time it's all said and done. So I'm not too concerned about this. But when I repot it next, I'll look at that. And I think I've been doing lately taking a walk down memory lane with some of my trees. I don't have a lot of early pictures, but I have some for this one, and let's take a look at those, and I can show you how it's gotten to this point. When I got this tree, it was really, really tall, and you can see this major cut, like right there in the center of the picture, where, I mean, it was probably 3 times this height, so I just kind of chopped it off and let a new leader grow. And it's interesting to me when you do that, like what was a side branch immediately grew straight up and became the new top of the tree, even though it was, reasonably sizable. And from then on, I just started working on ramification, just cutting it back like I always do in this channel to 1 or 2 sets of leaves and just continually doing that after, some significant growth. And, I found that works really well. And I recommend, just take like a cutting and play around with it and, cut it back very often to create tremendous ramification. You'll be shocked at how much you can get in a very short period of time. And, these trees grow pretty quickly. I also recommend you get them outside. It's astounding, like how much thickness they put on out there just being in the sun. And it also causes the branches to get this nice red color, which the sun, naturally does when they're in the sun and they sort of get a nice suntan or sunburn. You'll see the underside of them is often green, and where the sun hits them is red. But let's take a look at another picture. This was probably one of the earliest pictures I have where, you can see it doesn't look like much. Uh, yeah, it was very unattractive for a very long time. And in all honesty, when I first got it, I was deeply sort of disappointed with what I bought versus what showed up, But, you know, I've been working on it over time, and hey, it's my tree, you know what I mean? I basically got to take it from like a stick in a pot like this to something that I really enjoy looking at and I feel is, getting some traction. as a convincing tree. And so, I don't, I've kind of grown okay with it now. And here it is a picture that's a bit later. Again, this is when I still had them like in my setup before I got my actual shelves. But this is probably after one season, and you can see, it thickens up pretty quickly. And those are all the pictures I have. So let's go back to the present moment, and this is what it looks like today, where it is in uh, dire need of a haircut, for sure. Get a lot of comments on this tree where, because it's a straight trunk and it's got a lot of bar branches, and people are like, well, why don't you cut off this branch and cut off that branch? And, maybe that's in the future for this tree, but for now, I'm really experimenting with this, straight up. Um, I guess you'd call it an acacia tree. I'm really going for something that has kind of a wider, squatter um, uh, profile to it in the top, and so I'm slowly working towards that. And so yeah, maybe I'll take some of that advice at some point, but I'm kind of going for something like this at the moment, where I want to sort of flatten it out, have it be more of a football shape on the top and less of a ball shape. And so if you look at it, what I really want to do is bring the top down. Uh, the goal would be to bring the top down and kind of flatten it out, get rid of this crazy growth on top, uh, and then take it from there. And like I said, I plan on displaying this tree for my guests to marvel at over the holidays. So and I have a little time, and what I found is, and even in like a 2 week time period, these things kind of bounce back from pruning pretty well. So I'm trying to get it to that point where, okay, in 2 weeks, it's going to be quite charming. So definitely will be doing some pruning, but I'm not going to go crazy on it I mean honestly, like I do with most of my jades when I do prune them. So the first thing I want to do is this upright growth is, it's just, here's some growth coming to the inside. Yeah, that's never going to work for, you know, uh, any alternate universe for this tree. So I'm just going to cut those off. So I'll start by doing that, and then, you know, uh, just have a lot of long growth that needs to be shortened up. And yeah, some nice cuttings I can send out to somebody. So I'll just go around and initially just get rid of anything that's going straight up, which I know I don't want, or certainly anything that's growing like back into the tree, because that is just a mess. And also, I'm sort of, we're going to have a profile here, so I kind of want to let the stuff on the outside keep growing. I'll neaten it up a bit. And I'm sort of starting in the middle this time, which is kind of unusual. Um, but I just have a lot of stuff in here that I immediately saw that's growing like back in towards the center of the tree. And, I definitely don't want that. So I'm just going to uh, take care of it while I see it, and just fix that right off the bat. And here's some stuff going straight up that I don't need. And this is just a weird looking branch that's kind of cutting across the tree, so I'll get rid of that. You want the growth to kind of come. Um, and this is where I think a turntable is really nice, because you really want that growth to kind of come, um, up and out towards you. And so by looking at the tree from the top and then also constantly turning it, you can really see that, because you're kind of taking a very thin look at the tree, almost segment by segment as you turn it around. And, I mean, you'll see when I'm pruning a tree, I am, uh, I probably rotate it, uh, I don't know, 50 or 100 times while I'm pruning it. And the reason for that is I think it really helps me look at it and kind of get the overall look. So once again, I want to go with this profile. So I'm just going to take these right back right now, and we will see how that looks. I mentioned my turntable, and a lot of people ask me about this turntable. You can, I mean, you've kind of seen bits of it, um, as I'm filming and kind of moving around, and I just love it. I mean, I have three different kinds of turntables. I'm just thinning out the top here while I jabber on, and three different kinds. There's sort of the basic plastic one that's like two discs squashed together, which you see on Amazon, and that one is great, and I usually use that one outside because, it's very light. It works quite well. It's not smooth. And then I have my higher end ones. I've got one that I've had for, I mean, like close to 30 years, which maybe 25 years, something like that. It's wooden. It's from Japan, really heavy base, and it's big. So I used to work on bigger trees, and I love that one because it has like a crank on it where I can stop it from spinning, and it just it spins so freely. And this one that I'm using currently, as I started working on smaller trees, I really like this one. I got it on eBay, and I'll put a link to it so you can check it out. I'll do a video where I kind of go over it more, but I really like this one, and they have a few. Again, it's from Japan. It's really heavy. It's not inexpensive, but you can also pay a lot more for a golf club or something like that. But it's heavy duty. It spins really nicely, and it's just smartly designed. It has a couple of cranks on it where you can stop the base from spinning or the top from spinning. I tend to not use that, but it's interesting because it doesn't have bearings or anything. So I don't know if you'd want it for super heavy trees, but like I said, it's the top platter on it's only maybe 10 inches, maybe a foot around. So it's not, it's heavy itself. Maybe it would work for heavier trees. I don't know how it's designed. It doesn't have bearings in there, but it has a smooth action and the right amount of grip to stop, so it doesn't keep rotating when you use it. So, I mean, whoever designed this truly was a person doing bonsai because it just works so perfectly. You can tell that, like, I don't have a single complaint with this turntable at all. It's beautiful. So check the notes and I'll put a link to it. So we're making some progress here, and I'm sort of thinking to myself, like, I don't want to. Um, Normally, I just prune like a madman, and so and it's easy to fall into that, because you sort of get in as Nigel calls it, the bonsai zone, and you're not on autopilot, but you're kind of like one with the tools in the tree, and you have a vision in your head, and it's to me, it's just a state of bliss, and so. The rest of the world and my thoughts kind of disappear, and it's very easy to, in that trance-like state almost, just do what you do, and so I definitely don't want to fall into that because, like I said, I don't want to prune this to the degree that I normally do with most of my trees because I need to keep it presentable. Um, And that can be a tough thing to do too, because I want to prune it, but I'm trying to gauge the recovery so that um, it kind of recovers enough to look really good. And I think that's about 3 weeks is about what I want with this, because I found most of the ports, like no matter what I do to them, they're starting to respond in 2 weeks, and by the third week, you can really see some stuff. But you can see there's this long stuff that is kind of it's a little long-legged, and so I'm just going to take it out because I want the I don't want any particular shoots or branches to stand out, right? So my goal with this is to prune it back and have nothing in particular be overly noticeable. And what I found is you do that, you'll get a lot of new growth out of the edges that kind of fill in a little bit of space, and it'll look I think it'll look quite nice. But to go back to this turntable discussion for a minute, the I'll put the link in there as I said, but there's two different varieties. Let's take a look at the top and see how we're doing. And you can see some of the ramification here. And it looks pretty good. But I've got this inside growth there, which, well, it looks like I missed the camera, but you can see, like, I cut that off because it's just going to grow directly into its neighbor, and that's not something you necessarily want. And so you want to kind of go in here and look at that and there's one that's growing to the inside. Here's another one growing to the inside. And what I want to do is leave room for so that the branches above it at the top of the tree can kind of come down and fill in that space, right? Rather than I don't want these lower branches necessarily to come up and in. So that's kind of what you're going for. But yeah, the turntable, there's a couple different models. One, it sort of pivots at an angle, so the idea is you can sort of tie the tree to the turntable. It's got a rubberized top and it has these little knobs on the underside, so you can sort of put a strap or a rope on there to tie the tree, and then you could tilt the tree so you could actually prune it with your new intended style, and so it has different degrees of pivoting. I did not go for that one because I don't do that, and it seemed a little overly fiddly to me. But if you do a lot of that, it could be a really good option. There's some growth really in the inside that I'm going to take off because it'll just grow up into its neighbors above it, and I don't want that. So yeah, it's whatever you're looking for. You can see my water collector out there. Um, yeah, there's lots of options with the turntables, but I really like this one. But depending on what you need, you might want the one that um, you can pivot the angle with, which is kind of a cool feature. I haven't seen many of them that even do that, so it's kind of neat. So I feel like I'm starting to cook with gas on this, where I'm really kind of, you know, I've gotten a lot of the shagginess out of it, and now I'm really just kind of coming in here and doing some detail pruning and sort of, getting rid of, um, those branches I know I don't want and stuff that's a bit too long. And this is where I need to be careful because I oftentimes go kind of hog wild at this point, and like I said, I don't want to over prune this guy. But yeah, I think we're kind of getting there. I think in the summer, I'm really going to. I think I need to do some more structural work on this. Like it has a lot of it's got a lot of ramification, and I have a lot of compaction, and I'm sort of happy with the branches. But I feel like I need some editing on this, and so at some point, maybe after the holidays, I'm going to come in here and do some branch simplification because I feel like this tree, um, it really deserves that, and I think it'll move it forward by simplifying that, and then kind of, because I think it looks good. I feel, but um, it's kind of got a lot going on. If I look at this, especially near the top, I think that's where it really needs some editing, and so that will be coming in a future video. Uh, Maybe I'll do that in the spring. I also want to pull this one out of the pot and take a look at the roots and see. Portulacaria. I'm sort of getting to the point now where some of my trees have been in the same pot for 3 years, and people say, well, they really love to be root bound and whatnot, and I feel that's really good if you have a tree that's close to a mode where it's sort of a stasis mode where you want to sort of keep it looking the same or try to do that. That's probably great, right? Because I think what I have noticed with Portulacaria Afra is, um, and I think this is different than many other trees. Yeah, it definitely is. But like once it fills the pot with roots, I think it goes, well, I want to keep growing, and so it fattens up its trunk because I think it's sort of um, using that as a water reservoir. Um, and it sort of makes sense, I guess, if you think about it, where once it runs out of root room, it wants to keep growing and survive. So I think its strategy is to just thicken up the trunk and hold more water and nutrients in there. for the lean times, as they say, um, which is kind of interesting. But I've also noticed, like I could cut this thing off at the base, and with good care, it will quickly grow roots and grow like crazy. But I have noticed in that case, like cutting, like you get a lot of root growth, you get a lot of foliage growth, but it's kind of wild. You know what I mean? It's big, it's wild, it's vigorous. So, I just have to decide, with some of these trees, are they close to where I want them? So I'll just ride them out and keep them in that pot as long as possible because I really want to slow down the development of the tree. Or is there more that I want to do? I'm just taking off some of the lower leaves here so I find it just looks better. You can always tell I'm getting near the end of pruning when I'm doing that. Um, or do I want to really, grow some new branches and thicken stuff up? In which case, you know, um, you might want to do more root pruning because I have found that does lead to a big spurt in vigor of the tree. And you can see this a lot, like when I do a lot of water cuttings. So I'll take a cutting, put it in water for, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks, and it grows a lot of roots, and then stick it in soil. And when you do that, it just really takes off because it wants to survive. So it understands it has to grow as fast as possible for quite a while to, um, get some strength. Yeah, you can definitely tell like when you get a tree with a lot of branches, it takes some time. It takes some time to do this kind of pruning. And hopefully, I don't know, you guys give me some feedback if I tend to just do all the filming of the whole process, But, I could speed it up or skip ahead. I kind of don't like the videos to be more than about a half hour because I feel like people start to tune out at some point. So I don't know. Give me some feedback on that. If a half hour is too long, or I mean, at one point I thought to myself, well, I should try to limit these videos to about 15 minutes because that seems like a good time, or even like 12 minutes or something. Uh, so yeah, I mean, give me some feedback on that if you're so inclined. Uh, because it does take a long time to. I mean, you can see as I'm going through here, and I'm still finding stuff like this is kind of straight up. I've got some stuff that's straight down. I'll cut that off because I really don't want that. It'll just continue to grow straight down and kind of be an eyesore. But you start. Um, You know, it's like you're playing at being a hungry elephant on this tree, right? You're sort of, eating the stuff that's on the outside and the long stuff, and you're kind of chomping away, and you know, you have to sort of go through that process to even see the finer details that you want to uh, that you want to take care of, which is what I'm doing now. Like I'm really getting rid of a lot of stuff that's growing straight down, and then as you thin out one area, you realize, oh, you know what, this area didn't look thick by comparison, but it certainly does now. And so, you work on that, and then you turn the tree at 20 degrees, and you start all over again. Um, but this is the process. I really find this, giving these haircuts to these trees is it's kind of zen-like and it's kind of fun. This one is kind of long. I think I'll shorten that one out a bit and get it kind of coming back straight out, sort of growing over top the branch to the right of it. And that's part of what it was saying. Like when I do some branch selection, I really want to simplify that out, and then we'll let a smaller number of branches really kind of beef out with more ramification on them, and get rid of some of their neighbors so that there's more room for that to happen because you know as you get more and more branches coming in, you just have to simplify them out, or it just becomes a cluster of branches that just looks congested. People always ask me about the wire on this tree as well. This is like a guy wire technique. I'm really just pulling the branches down, and yeah, you can see on like this branch on the left, it's quite effective. And I usually just keep it on there for a season. I use like a rubberized green coating core that I pull out of like that inexpensive plant wiring stuff you can get at Home Depot in order to prevent it from cutting in. And then I also sort of readjust the guy wire, I don't know, a couple times a year to check for that. But being a student of the Nigel Saunders clip and grow technique, I pretty much don't wire branches anymore. And a lot of that is because I'm working with these. I think it's a bit long on this left side, so I'm going to tune that a bit. But I think we're getting close here. But yeah, clip and grow, especially with these Portulacaria Afra succulents. Just checking my profile, and we've got some space in there for the birds to fly. I think we're getting pretty close. I think we're getting pretty close. Um, but yeah, I find with clip and grow and succulents, it's really not necessary um, to wire. I mean, I know a lot of people do, and I think that's fine. I just, for me, I find I have more than enough growth and options to choose from without using wiring to pull branches where I need them, with the exception of just pulling a branch down, which I do use wire, though you could easily just use rope for that. In fact, it might be a better option because I think it'd be less likely to cut into the tree. Let's take a look at the top here. I always want to be able to see down through the tree, and you can see we've accomplished that. And I also want to check the profile here. Um, you know, whether you're going for a round shape or an oval or whatever, triangle, rectangle, you can see this is a bit on the outside, so I just kind of come in here and clip these back. And I don't get too concerned about it. These things grow a lot. But you sort of want to maintain a decent shape, and you can really see the ramification here. And I just find it's so rewarding and beautiful to get a tree to the point where you just have too many branches, and you're you're looking at simplifying and reducing them. So yeah, definitely take a look at your trees from the top like this. And as I said, a turntable helps because you can spin it around, and I think it really helps you evaluate that part of the tree. And because you can see here, I'm actually able to prune back a lot on the outside that from the top just looked unnatural. And like anything in nature, right? Nature looks beautiful from like any angle, right? And I try to do that with my trees just because you want them. We're trying to emulate nature and nature's perfection. And so, I think it's a good goal to have and to aspire to. So I think that's close to a wrap on this tree, and so I'll get my tweezers out here and start clearing the decks, clean up a bit. And I think a good thought for the day is, let nature be your teacher. Let nature be your guide, and uh, I don't know, take a walk in an arboretum or a park or your backyard, or cruise around on the internet and find trees that really inspire you. And you don't have to like totally try to emulate a specific tree. You can pick elements that you like, right, and create something that is even not seen in nature but appeals to you. And I think that is um, worth doing, and exciting, because you want to get excited about whatever you're doing. uh, so you work at it, and you don't sort of ignore. I mean, I've definitely had trees that I've been unhappy with, and I tend to ignore them, and not give them the attention they need. And what I found over time is, I give that a certain amount of time, but if it's just not working for me, um, I'll give it away either to somebody who's not a bonsai person, or give it away to someone who's starting out and really wants to use it as a learning experience. But let's take a look. I think I'm going to stop because, like I said, I sort of I think I have enough time now where this will fill in, and I think it'll look pretty good in less than a month. And we've kind of accomplished the goal of giving it a nice profile again. Eventually, I want to go squatter, so I may eventually just take the top right off of this thing. Um, the top maybe 25%. Um, but for now, I think this looks great, and I'm really happy with it. We've accomplished the goal here, and like I said, I think it'll be ready in time for me to show it to people. And let me show you what we cut off here. I think it's always interesting because I tend to do usually a lot, like, I don't know, 90%. I feel like I probably hit, I don't know, 60, 65% on this one. Let's pan down, take a look. So I got a lot of cuttings. I don't know, hopefully I can salvage some of these to send out to folks, and share the joy. But let me put this guy back in the bench, and I'll give you a parting shot of what it looks like as it sits under the lights and hopefully fills out a bit for the next month. You can see it's pretty close to the lights, and I'll get some nice compact growth. And with that, I want to thank you for spending time with me, and I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.